Well, if you turn tonight to Exodus chapter 16, and look at verse 3. We've probably all read this numerous times, where it talks about the Israelites complaining. And I could go on and on about that as a devotional, about complaining, but I'm not going to use that one tonight.
That too easy?
It would probably hit too close to home. Starting in verse 3. Well, let's start in verse 2. In the desert, the whole community grumbled against Moses and Aaron. The Israelites said to them, "If only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt. There we sat around the pots of meat and ate all the food we wanted. But you have brought us out into this desert to starve this entire assembly to death." Let's turn over to Numbers chapter 13. Keep that thought in mind. Numbers chapter 13, let's look at verses 27 and 28. This was when the spies went into the promised land. They gave Moses this account. "We went into the land to which you sent us, and it does flow with milk and honey. Here is its fruit. But the people who live there are powerful, and the cities are fortified and very large. We even saw the descendants of Anak there." Two cases of where people were swayed from their thoughts, from their what they should have been looking at. In the first one, the children of Israel were complaining because they were looking back. They were saying, "We had it so much better back then. I mean, we're out here in the desert. We're in the wilderness." They didn't think that they were in a place that they were given bread every day, that they were being led to a promised land. All they could think about was what they used to have. We had it good. There was pots full of meat. We sat around the fire. We had a great time. Do we ever think about the good old days? How it used to be when we were young, we could run, we could jump, we could climb.
Okay, that's enough.
Yeah, that's enough right there. But isn't it true, though? Sometimes we can concentrate so much on what used to be that we forget what's waiting for us. The second one in Numbers. The spies went into the promised land. Land flowing with milk and honey. They brought back the fruits of it. You'd have thought they'd have said, "Man, we are going to be set." But what they say? "Oh, there's giants there. They're going to eat us alive. There's no way. We're not going to be able to take it." If we look in verse 30, then Caleb silenced the people before Moses and said, "We should go up and take possession of the land. We could certainly do it." He said that all in one sentence, didn't he? "Well, let's go up and take the land. We can surely do it." Why did he say that? Because God promised them the land. And Caleb believed it. He promised it to them, and Caleb believed it. The other spies, he promised it to them too, didn't he? But they didn't believe it. They really didn't believe it because they were looking ahead, thinking there's no way that we're going to get past those giants. They're going to have us for lunch. We can be deterred by looking back, and we can be deterred by looking ahead. I try to put all this in perspective because I may be not being so perturbed by looking back because I know that There is something ahead that's greater. We're going to be in a house of our own. But I can be deterred and discomforted and in a scary place when I look ahead at all of the things ahead of me. All the things that have to be done. All the things that have to mesh. And they can be very discouraging. And it can be the same thing. I mean, we as a church here, we've got these two things, the vision and the mission. And we can look at them as being, I'm not good with people. No, that's just not my thing. And we can be deterred by saying, no, that's just not going to be what's going to happen. Or we can look ahead knowing the promises of God. Knowing that He tells us what is here for you in this book. If we look at Romans 8:28, one of the promises that I have to look at each day. And we all know it. That we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him. And then down in verse 31, if God is for us, who can be against us? There's the promise right there. So it wouldn't matter if we go out and we, in our minds, make a fool of ourselves, proclaiming God as we just studied. If God's for us, who can be against Him? All things will work for the good. That's a promise that's been given to us. But we can let so many things get in the way of that promise, just as those spies did. The giants. It's too much. But Caleb said it all in one sentence. Hey, let's just go. It's our land. This is our promise. If we do what is right, if we obey God and His Word, He's got a land for us. He's got a place for us. He's already got the mansions built. And it's going to be better than anything we ever thought of here. And yet we can let so many little things in our lives cloud our vision. It's like the glasses I had on Sunday. I could hardly see anybody because my vision was so clouded. They were so scratched up, it was just a blur. But I take them off and I look and I can see clearly. I just can't see well. But let's remember, and I know there are people too that look back a lot, as the children of Israel did. But one of the things that I noticed was that I have a tendency to look at the things that are ahead of me, and they will get in my way. But it's just as bad to look back at the good old days and but wasn't it so much easier then? But it's not. When God is leading us into territory that we are a little hesitant to enter, He's already promised us. And He, with His wisdom, with His grace, with His power, He will lead us around it or through it. One way or the other. He will get us there on the other side. But we have to be compliant in following Him. Because there's too many times, and I am guilty of it myself, I think I know exactly what God wants me to do, and I do this, and it's not what He wanted me to do. And it fails. And I have to back up and say, Lord, I've got to do it on your time. I've got to do it in your way. Because if I don't, then it's not going to work. I hope this has helped you as much as it's helped me. If there's anyone that has a need, let that be known as we stand and sing our closing song.